Hello and welcome to this edition of My Two Cents Worth. This is the part of the channel where I give you my 2 cents worth on a particular topic. Before we get any further into it, hit that subscribe bar and then the notification bell when it comes up so you can be notified when content's added to the channel. Remember to comment on these videos, like these videos, share these videos. This edition of My 2 cents Worth is brought to you by A Closer Walk with Jesus, written by me and published by 21st Century Christian. When you decide to be baptized into Christ and you decide to follow Christ, that is the most important decision you will ever make. It is more important than even who you pick for a spouse. And as part of the family of God, you need to get off to a good, strong start, and that's why I wrote the book, to help you get off to a good start. And if you've been a Christian for several years, this will help you as you go back over some of the basics, like prayer and some daily Christian living, and I help you to chart a course to discover how you can have that closer walk with Jesus. If you would like to order a copy, and it's not just for personal study, you can use it for Sunday school, for your Wednesday night, or whatever small groups you might have. It's great for that too. And if you would like a copy of it and you're on the internet, which obviously you are if you're watching this video, you can go to 21st Century Christian's website and order it from there. If you'd like to do it the old-fashioned way and go to the store, you can go to 4108 Hillsborough Pike, Suite 200 in Nashville, Tennessee, and you'll find them right there. Or you can give them a call at 615-383-3842 if you are in the Middle Tennessee area. Outside Middle Tennessee, 800-251-2477. Or you can fax 615-292-5983. And if you do want to go to the store, you can do that Monday through Thursdays, 8:30 to 4:30 Central Time, and Fridays, 8:30 to 4 Central Time. They are closed the weekends and major holidays. If you need customer service, you can go call Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. And since you're on the internet, you probably have some knowledge of how to get around and to shop on it. So you can go to Amazon.com. They've got, I think, just about everything 21st Century has in their catalog. Or if you have a local bookstore or one of those small regional ones that's still around, help your local economy and give them the opportunity to earn your business. I always encourage going to the local economy, the local restaurants, the local hardware stores, auto repair. Help your local economy as best you can in these. You may pay a little bit more, but I think a lot of times it's worth it. Okay, to recap what we've done so far. We're reviewing a sermon by James Talarico that was delivered on October 22nd, 2023, entitled God is Not a Christian, Confronting Christian Nationalism. And there's a reason why I'm using the quotes. I'll have to explain that towards the end of my review. This is a review and a critique of the speech. This is not a defense of Christian nationalism, nor is it an attack or a criticism of Christian nationalism. I'm not defending or attacking it because I don't know what it is. I've heard of it for 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm doing my research on the topic to figure out what it is. I am taking issue with some points that he makes about Christianity and what he claims the Bible teaches, and a few points about not just U.S. history, but as we'll see in this installment, that there are some issues with some world history that I'm taking with him, and then what the Constitution. And then we also looked at his assertions that Christian nationalists overturned Roe versus Wade, and how he offered no proof that anybody on the court's even a Christian. I don't know that. We are closer than we think to a military theocracy. Looked at his assertion about that, and some constitutional issues with us being a theocracy. His remarks about billionaires wanting to replace public schools with private schools in the state of Texas, and his claims that early Christians refused to participate in the economy, the military, or the culture. And today we're going to pick up about a little more than 5 minutes into his talk. When you are stopping it and adding your comments to it, it takes a little while to get through these things. But that's where we are. And so without further ado, we will go ahead and resume rolling the tape.
Us that the first Christians were persecuted for turning the world upside down. But 300 years after Jesus was executed by the Roman Empire, Emperor Constantine made Christianity the official state religion of that very same empire. Constantine was the first Christian nationalist. And ever since, the powers that be have been taming Christianity, domesticating it, diluting it into something more palatable. Pro-war, pro-wealth, pro-white supremacy. That original countercultural movement became a tranquilized, privatized, weaponized religion, the official sponsor of Western civilization. A religion of sharing became a religion of greed. A religion of peace became a religion of violence. A religion of forgiveness became a religion of judgment. A religion of ego transformation became a religion of ego affirmation. Today, Christian nationalists obsess over people's private parts while the planet burns. 8 men own as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, and Christian nationalists are boycotting Barbie. The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. Look around us. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would guarantee health care to every single person. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would make sure every child in this state and in this country was housed, fed, clothed, educated, and insured. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation, because we know the table of fellowship is open to everybody, including our Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and atheist neighbors. Jesus could have started a Christian theocracy, but love would never do that. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven is a multiracial, multicultural democracy where power is truly shared among all people, something that's yet to exist in human history. Christian nationalism is not only a threat to the American experiment in democracy, it's also a threat to the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Okay, we're only about, I think, 3 minutes into this segment of his speech, and there's quite a bit here really to look at and to contend with, starting with his assertion about Constantine being the first Christian nationalist. Now, Constantine was a Roman emperor of what we now know as the Eastern or Byzantine Empire, which was after the empire split. Rome was the headquarters of the Western Empire, and the city that became Constantinople is now Istanbul. It was the capital for the eastern half of the empire. Constantine lived from February 27th, 272 to May 22nd, 337. He was emperor from 306 to 337. And he began to favor Christianity at about 312 AD. This almost sounds like I'm giving times of day. And then he became a Christian, and according to Eusebius of Nicomedia, who was an Arian bishop, that he was, or rather, he was baptized by Eusebius, is the claim. Eusebius of Nicomedia, and the Catholic Church and the Coptic Orthodox Church maintains that he was baptized by Pope Sylvester I. He played an influential role in proclaiming the Edict of Milan in AD 313, which declared tolerance for Christianity in the Roman Empire, and then he called the First Council of Nicaea in AD 325, which produced what we now know as the Nicene Creed. And then on his orders, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built in Jerusalem over the spot where some think Jesus was buried. We don't really know if that's it or the spot or not. And so he is considered by some to be the first Christian emperor. He made a sort of conversion, I guess. I'll get to that in just a minute. He did favor the Christian church. It did receive, he did end the persecution, but was he really a Christian? Well, that's the question that is debated to these days. He lived much of his life, even after his conversion, as a pagan. He continued on in a lot of pagan practices. So Constantine's alleged journey to Christianity began right here at the Milvian Bridge, which crosses the Tiber River. This is north of Rome. On October 28, 312, Constantine defeated Maxentius, ending a power struggle between the two men. Actually, I think there was a third man involved in it too. But long story short, made a complicated political military story just boiled down to its basics. There was a power struggle after the previous emperor died, and I believe that was Constantine's father, who was the previous emperor, but I'm not positive. And so there was this battle. Basically, they started a war between them to figure out who would be the next emperor. And Maxentius's forces were about twice the size of Constantine's, and he had them organized facing with his battle plan, and with Maxentius had their backs to the river, and here comes Constantine's army, and they had a symbol on their shields and on their banners and things that was unfamiliar to Maxentius's, and this is what it looks like. The Chi Rho or Chi Rho, and these are two Greek letters. And this is also known as a chrismon. It's one of the earliest forms of a Christogram, that is, of a symbol of Christianity. And the story goes that prior to the battle, according to Lactantius, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Constantine was directed in a dream to cause the heavenly sign to be delineated on the shields of his soldiers and to proceed to battle. He did as he had been commanded, and he marked on their shields the letter, the chi or X, with a perpendicular line drawn through it and turned it around, and thus it being the cipher of Christ. And having this sign, his troops stood to arms. Eusebius describes a vision that Constantine had while marching at midday, in which he saw with his own eyes the trophy of a cross of light in the heavens above the sun, bearing the inscription, in Latin, it's in hoc signo vinces, which means in this sign conquer, or in this sign thou shalt conquer. And what you see up here in this, here's the cross. Over here, this is actually the Greek lettering of it. Wording I can't remember what the Greek is. But and then in Eusebius's account, Constantine had a dream the following night in which Christ appeared with the same heavenly sign and told him to make an army standard in the form of the labarium. And that's something similar to the Chi Rho. And Eusebius is vague about when and where these events took place, but it enters his narrative before the war begins against Maxentius. And he described the sign as the key traversed with the rho, which is the P in English, representing the first two letters of the Greek word for Christos. In English, it's CHR, but it's Chi Rho in the original Greek. And this is another artist's rendition of the scene. Here's all the heavenly stuff happening up here. In fact, this is during the battle, is what it looks like. And actually, there is a possible natural phenomenon that he might have seen. And this could be it. This is called a sundog, and this might have been something like what he saw actually in the sky. Of course, we don't know. It's been however many hundreds of years since this happened. And so, was he a Christian? Well, like I said, that's the question. A good question. Eusebius later portrayed Constantine as a worshiper of the one true God, but not in unmistakably Christian terms. The evidence suggests that Constantine could have acquired from his father a predisposition to take a serious look at Christianity when the opportunity presented it, or when the opportunity offered. Now, Constantine's religion is from first to last that of an autocratic ruler, of an empire secured by military might and still overwhelmingly pagan. If pagan elements did not disappear from his coinage immediately after his conversion, that should scarcely surprise us. Constantine's legislative and executive actions can fairly be understood only when judged not anachronistically against some ideal portrait of the Christian monarch. There were, after all, no precedents, no available role models to guide a Roman emperor who was also a Christian. but historically, in a brutal age that took harsh retributive punishments for granted, and so his wife and eldest son had to die for offenses of treason. Not in vain did Constantine bear the sword. So this is at the beginning, talking about his paganism that continued. This is cutting him a little bit of slack because it was an overwhelmingly pagan culture that he had there. And I do remember now, as I'm going through this, an account, it was an artist rendition years ago I saw of Constantine baptizing some of his troops, which he just took a spoonful of water or a bottle of water, whatever it was, and poured it on their head and said, okay, you're a Christian now. Next, okay, you're a Christian now. Of course, that's not how you make somebody a Christian. And that's another discussion for another video. From the Christian History Institute, it is important not to make Constantine out to be more consistently Christian than he was. His conversion was not accompanied by a sharp break with his former paganism. Romans chapter 6 talks about how when you're baptized, you become dead to sin and dead to your previous way of life. He should have been. But apparently, here again, he wasn't. His conversion was not accompanied by a sharp break with his former paganism, rather a transition to discernible from the worship of the divine Son to the service of the one true Christian God. When in 321 he made the first day of the week a holiday, he described it as the day of the sun, notice the spelling, but so do Christians today, but a different spelling of sun. Christians' regard for this Lord's Day, however, alone motivated this ruling. Remember, back in Acts chapter 2, the Lord's Church was established on a Sunday. So the idea of Constantine switching the worship day is not true, but making it a holiday, and I'm not sure in Roman terms what that would entail, if you got federal paid workers or how that worked back then. And then this from Bible.com: was Constantine converted to Christianity? Constantine brought Christian persecution to an end when he came to power. There is no historical indication that Constantine was converted. In fact, he was not baptized until he was practically on his deathbed. However, his mother Helena was a Christian convert, and it's most likely that Constantine saw in Christianity a cohesive method to unify the kingdom. In other words, being a politician, first and foremost, using it as to his advantage. And his mother apparently was a legitimate convert to Christianity. She even made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, where allegedly she found the cross that Jesus was crucified on. Highly unlikely that happened, but there is apparently some documentation that she was in Jerusalem at some point. And then BibleInfo.com continues, what he didn't comprehend were the religion's deep divisions. That isn't within Christianity. There was already divisions. That goes back to the first century, really, almost from the get-go. It wasn't too long before he was putting out fires, and eventually, at the request of religious parties and factions who begged him to interfere, he married politics and religion. The result was a unification of church and state, a move that would be the catalyst to the agrarious abuses that took place over the next 1,500 years during what has become known as the Dark Ages. And then this from Encyclopedia Britannica: Constantine's father, Constantius I, was appointed to the position of Augustus or Emperor. By the time Constantine reached young adulthood, Constantine made his mother Helena, which was Constantinus's wife or concubine, some debate about that, empress when his army proclaimed him emperor in 306 AD. Constantine himself had two wives, Minerva or Minervini, don't hurt yourself, who bore Constantine his firstborn child Crispus, and Fausta, the daughter of the previous Western emperor, who bore him three sons. In AD 326, Constantine put Crispus and Fausta to death, an episode that has attracted much speculation but few definitive answers. Constantine left his empire to his three surviving sons upon his death in 337. Constantine embraced Christianity without throwing out polytheism. That's the belief in many gods. He sponsored Christian building projects, such as St. Peter's Basilica, built between AD 320 and 327, yet left the legal framework purposefully ambiguous enough to accommodate a wide range of religious beliefs and practices in the Roman Empire. So I would contend that Christianity became the tool of politicians to expand an empire. Oh, sure, greed was involved. I'm not denying that either. But that's not Christianity's fault. I just saw a video a little while ago of Thomas Sowell. He's a 94-year-old economist, and I hope I can be half as sharp as him if I live that life. I wish I was half as sharp as him right now. But he talked about the Spanish Empire and how when they got into South America and found the large gold deposits there, that's what they were using to finance their empire. And then come the 1800s, when the South Americans decided, you know what, we don't really want to be a colony anymore. Spain, you're out of here. That wrecked the Spanish economy. And as they began losing their colonies and they didn't have that income, they couldn't support their empire, their military, and that set them up for a huge defeat in 1901 in the Spanish-American War. They were an empire not only in decline, I think by that time they'd pretty well fallen apart. But it wasn't Christianity's fault that they did this. It was kings taking advice, no doubt, from religious leaders who went out and did this, probably with the, hey, let's go convert them to Christianity, or Catholicism, really. So you can't blame Christianity for the misuse by people. I'm getting ready now to do a play where I'm going to be in A Christmas Carol. It's right, but it's in October when I'm making this video. October the 2nd, as I'm making this. And I've used this in a short, that if I go out and I turn in a bad performance for my character, I'm playing Mr. Fezziwig, who's the man that gave Scrooge his start in business. If I go out and I turn in a bad performance, I blow my lines and all that, is that my fault or is that Dickens' fault? Are we going to say Dickens really messed up that performance and it's all... No, it's going to be my fault if I turn in a bad performance. And when Christians behave badly, that's not God's fault or Jesus' fault. That's their fault. That's on them. Now, the problem, of course, is people in the world don't know how to differentiate between that conduct of Christians and Jesus. They look at it and say, well, if that's Christianity, I don't want any part of it. And I can understand it. I didn't grow up in a church going home, and I understand some of the criticism. But you've got to look beyond what the Christians are doing and look to Jesus. And this is a coin, as we finish up here about Constantine, this is a coin struck in 313 depicting Constantine. And you can see there's two figures here. This is, I think, Constantine here, over here. This is a solar deity, a sun god. So he continued on in his paganism. Some of the stuff he did as a head of state, maybe cut him some slack there, because heads of state, you've got to do things that you normally probably wouldn't do if you were just an on-the-street Christian. But so we can cut him a little bit of slack for some of the stuff. But overall, personally, I don't think he was a Christian. I think he used it more as a political ploy, because at the end of the day, as a congressman once said in a lecture I saw, politicians are about self-preservation. And Constantine being emperor, yeah, at heart, he's a politician. Now, Talarico made the statement about Christianity becoming a religion of judgment and judging and being judgmental. Well, judgment is a part of Christianity when used correctly. Matthew 7 is probably one of the most misused and misquoted and abused passages in Scripture. Judge not that you not be judged, or the old King James, judge not lest ye be judged, and people usually stop right there. But read on, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye and do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So judgment is not a sin, or it's not wrong to be judgmental, as long as you're doing it correctly. Not like the Pharisees, where you were putting burdens on people that you yourself aren't willing to carry. John chapter 7, Jesus answered and said to them, I did one work, and you all marvel. Moses therefore gave you circumcision, not that it is from Moses, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If a man receives circumcision on the Sabbath, so that the law of Moses should not be broken, are you angry with me because I made a man completely well on the Sabbath? Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. Use your head. Do it right if you have to pass judgment on something. And if the Bible gives a teaching, there is no judging to be done. God's already issued the judging. When the police officer pulls you over because you were going 20 over the speed limit, try using officer, hey, judge not lest you be judged. Yeah, right, dude. Tell it to the judge. Here's your ticket. Have a nice day. He's just doing his job when he pulls you over and writes you the ticket. When we see sin and we call it out, we are just doing our job. We're doing what God said to do. Now, there is right ways and wrong ways to call out sin. There's wise ways and unwise ways, and that's another topic maybe for another episode. Now, Talarico made the claim that 8 men control as much wealth as 3.5 billion people on the planet. And this is from CBS News, meet the 8 men who are wealthier than half the globe. Okay, so that's correct. But there was something I noticed as I was going over this list. The 8 richest men in the world. There's Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. And he's somewhere here. Okay, number 8 is Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York City. Larry Ellison, Oracle, software giant, founded in 1977. There's Zuckerberg. Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Carlos Slim Agahilu. I think he is from Mexico, one of the world's richest men. Warren Buffett. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ortega. Many know the company he created, his fortune, Zara. I've never heard of it, the Spanish clothing company. And then Bill Gates at $75 billion. Now look at the Americans. Bill Gates, there's an interesting common thread here, I notice. Buffett, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Ellison. Well, Ellison's one that I'm not sure about. Bloomberg. The interesting thing, except for Ellison and maybe Bezos, I'm not sure about those two, but the rest of the Americans on this list, they're all liberal Democrats. And this is where I'm going to get a little bit political. I hear the Democrats, like right now, Kamala Harris and the Democrats are trotted out their usual mantra, making billionaires and millionaires pay their fair share of taxes. Nobody ever says what that fair share is, but these men are all liberal Democrats, and I know for sure that, where is he? Warren Buffett has advocated for higher taxes on billionaires. The problem is that typically I have noticed that whenever the Democrats talk about raising taxes on the wealthy, somehow my taxes end up going up too. Buffett has made that call when really there's one simple thing that all he has to do. Really, all you got to do is write the check, Warren. And any of you other guys who think millionaires and billionaires need to pay more taxes, just get your checkbook out. Write the check. And Buffett has made the claim, and there's a little economic sleight of hand that goes on here about him having a lower tax rate than his secretary. I have no idea who his secretary is or how much she gets paid. I'm sure she's well compensated. But here's the thing. What he doesn't tell you is the other half of the equation, where his pay, and a lot of these billionaires get paid in dividends. And dividends are paid with after-tax dollars, and they are taxed at a lower rate because they are paid with after-tax dollars. So when you hear them talking about their lower tax rate, that's usually what they're talking about, is they get paid in dividend, but they don't tell you that. And before you start wanting to raise taxes on dividends, check your IRA or your 401k, because they're probably financed by dividends from a lot of these companies and other companies that are on the stock market. And so I always caution people when they start wanting to raise taxes on millionaires and billionaires, and there's other reasons why you want to be careful raising taxes, but I just wanted to point that out to you, that he is right that these men do control a lot of wealth. And instead of trying to tax them into oblivion, maybe we need to redo the tax code and encourage them to invest and start bringing manufacturing jobs back. It's just a thought. Now, he also mentioned how the Bible doesn't say anything about abortion or same-sex marriage. Not quite true. Now, abortion is covered in one of my other 2 cents worth videos. Abortion, and I don't go to get into the Bible as much when it comes to abortion. You've got 2 humans reproducing. What did they reproduce? They reproduce, obviously, other humans. When it comes to that child that has been formed, you're downgrading it to say that it's something less than human. It is a human. And if it's not a human, then I'd like to know by what physical law that it becomes human and at what point it suddenly does become human. And I've got the other videos on that. As far as his claim about marriage, well, we just go to Matthew chapter 19. This is the Pharisees have returned. They're trying to get Jesus on a gotcha question. And great multitudes followed him. The Pharisees also came to him and testing him, saying, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for just any reason? And this was then and now a controversial topic in religious circles. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning, male and female? You notice male and female, two genders, that's it. And he said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. They said to him, why then did Moses command to give a certificate of divorce and to put her away? Now notice, Jesus said, this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. He didn't say a man shall leave his father and be joined to his husband, or a woman to her wife. That's male and female. This is the Bible teaching on marriage right here. I know there's other things going on in the Old Testament, but we're under the New Covenant. And when you get into Corinthians and into Romans, it's clear there's never same-sex marriage mentioned anywhere in Scripture. That is an invention of man. It is not biblical. So to say that the Bible doesn't address the issue of same-sex marriage is incorrect. It lays out that it's a man and a woman under the New Covenant. And then once again, I want to bring this up again, the First Amendment to the Constitution about making us a theocracy and that sort of thing. It can't be done. Legally, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I would not be in favor of making legally the United States a Christian nation. That is in violation of the First Amendment. And I think it is in violation of what Jesus gave us in the Great Commission. He said to go into all the world and to teach. I know it's going to get me some blowback from Christians. I'm going to get called a liberal, all kinds of other names. But I don't care. Get over it. Jesus said go into all the world and teach. He didn't say to legislate. He didn't say to force anybody. He said to go in to teach. And you go in, you present your material, have a discussion, lots of different ways of teaching. But that's the idea, is to go into the world and teach. And he talked about if we were truly a Christian nation, we'd get new housing and health care and forgive student loan debts and this other thing. There was something in the Old Testament called the Year of Jubilee. And the Year of Jubilee consisted of several things. For one, there was rest for the soil. The idea of crop rotation comes right out of the Old Testament, where you leave land set for a season or two while it rejuvenates itself and you plant your crops in another section. There was revision of landed property. So in other words, if I had taken your property or you had sold it to me and I was as collateral, I would have to return it to you. The emancipation of those Israelites who had become slaves, and the Year of Jubilee was every 50 years. And that there must also have been a perfect remission of debts in the Year of Jubilee is also self-evident. In other words, debts were forgiven. Now, Talarico claims that if the U.S. was a Christian nation, then we would forgive student debt. Now, we are not a Christian nation. That is a correct statement. But he's wrong to say it's blasphemous that a nation can declare themselves Christian. A nation can do whatever it wants. But forgiving student debt, that's really subsidizing irresponsibility. We are not, and that goes to, I think, our failure of our education system, that we are not teaching personal finance. Forgiving student debt. Let's take a look at some of these student debts and loans that we would be forgiving.
Check this out. This is a bunch of NYU students at their graduation. If you look at a girl like that, what did she learn in college? I don't know. At Penn State, she learned how to become a jihadist. Congratulations. There's a whole bunch of worthless stuff that you can become if you become a college graduate these days. Check this out.
My name is Jacob, and my concentration is environmental science and sustainable business.
Hi, my name is Lex, and my concentration is the performance of self.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. My concentration is creative direction, production, and narrative through the arts. performance and written word.
Hi, my name is Karina Gomez, and my concentration is in journalism and Latin American studies with an emphasis in human rights, collective memory, and political violence.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Lee, and I studied the sociology of environmental communication.
Hi, my name is Reed, and I study music business and gender studies.
Hi, my name is Dominique, and I studied care politics with a minor in disability studies.
My name is Elliot Wright, and my concentration is art as a social mechanism.
Hi, I'm Georgia, and my concentration is dramatic writing and theatrical adaptation.
My name is Noah Loyacano, and my concentration is equilibrium or negotiated paradox.
Hi, my name is Sophie Lopez, and my concentration is titled Queering and Decolonizing Theater Practice.
Hi, my name is Maya, and my concentration is journalism, post-colonial studies, and psychoanalysis.
Hi, I'm Eloise. I'm graduating with a concentration in philosophy of science and theater.
My name is Amina, and my concentration is titled The Criminal Mind, which is surrounded on criminology and applied psychology.
Hi, my name is Juliana. My concentration is international business and fashion through sustainable development. Yay!
How you doing, college dropout making mad cash in the real world? These people, everything has failed them. The systems have failed them. Their teachers have failed them. Their parents have failed them. All of those useless degrees, utterly useless degrees that they went to NYU for and went into debt. And then, of course, the Biden administration will somehow forgive their debt, which isn't even a real thing. You're just pushing the debt elsewhere. They are going to become baristas at Starbucks, and they'll do that for about 6 months. They will then tell you that Starbucks is part of the evil capitalist system. They will strap on a suicide bomb, and they will blow up a bus. That's what the future is for these people.
Gotta love Dave Rubin. I don't agree with him on some things, but he's dead bang right on the money on this one. Did you pay attention to some of those degrees? They're completely useless. And these are the people that are going to be wanting student loan forgiveness. Some parents needed to sit down with them and say, look, you want to go in and do gender studies, or you want to do, fashion and sustainable, I forget what it was now. Okay, look, what are your job prospects there? And being as you're only going to be in your 20s when you come out of college, even if you have a useful degree like engineering or something like that, you're going to start out at a low salary. And if your student loans are going to be, and I'm just making up a figure, $1,000 a month, let's say, are you going to be able to make enough money to make that payment, plus pay your rent, a car payment, and whatever other expenses you have? And so they've made some poor choices. They either refused or neglected to get any kind of guidance. And now Talarico and some of these others want us to, taxpayers, to pick up the tab on this. Well, my answer to that is no. You should have been doing some thinking about this. I dabbled from time to time in selling insurance and financial services. And at one of the places where I was, the office manager there, I forget what his degree was in, but it was basically television news production, that sort of thing. He was boasting about directing the 1984 Olympics for some TV station in Detroit. But he said that when he got his degree, he said, and I forget the exact figures, but it was something like 700 entry-level job seekers for about 200 or 300 entry-level positions. So every person applying, or every one of those positions would have at least 2 people applying for it. If you've got an occupation or a degree study that you are looking at, a field of study you're looking at that's got those kind of odds, you might want to think about doing something else. At least get yourself started, and maybe you can segue into that, or you can do that as kind of a hobby or something on the side. But when you're making bad choices of what to go into, and this is another reason I've come to believe college is pretty much a ripoff, even though I do have 2 degrees. When I was an employment specialist in a school, I was directing as many students as I could to go into apprenticeship programs and go to trade schools or technical schools, and not focus solely on 4-year degrees, because there's a lot of other things you can do that don't require degrees anyway. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Didn't get quite as far into it as I wanted to, but there was quite a bit to unpack there, and there's more to come in part 3 when we hopefully will wrap this up in 3 parts, or might have to do a 4th. We'll see. But that'll do it for now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when content's added to the channel. And tell me what you think. So far, do you agree with Talarico? That's fine. Just put your comments in the comment section below. If you have any questions you would like me to address on the channel about this or some other topic, you can send them to me at 2timothy4.2.3@gmail.com, or you can leave questions in the comment section below as well. So that's going to wrap it up for now. We will see you in the continuation of this in our next video. Thanks for watching. I'm done. I'm out.